All right, guys, Wagme Capital here. First video, so relatively new to the day trading scene. Wanted to make these videos, half for myself, just so I have these to kind of go back and look like a little personal journal on my trading journey, but also obviously to help anyone interested. And, hopefully you guys can grow along with me because as you'll see, I'm still learning, still a beginner, a lot of room to grow, but I thought it'd be interesting to do this. So, first of all, I am going to be using Adam Sliver Trade's daily watch list. So part of the reason is there's a couple things that would go in, like a couple factors that would make someone a successful day trader. So one would be, picking the right stocks to look at. Another would be picking the right key levels or knowing which times, like when to enter, when to exit. And then the third would be kind of using all the indicators to know just kind of execution, right? So Adam Sliver's watch list gives us 1 and 2. It gives us the different key levels and kind of what prices to look at and when to enter and exit, and then also the ticker, so you know which names to trade. I'm trying to hone my skills on the execution. So knowing like, okay, hey, this tease the call trigger. Should I buy? Think it's going to go up more? Should I sell, buy puts? Think it's going to reject and go down? So that's where I'm at. So let's go over the charts for today. So the first one was BABA. As you can see, today in general was pretty choppy. So I always have SPY up and, always flipping back and forth. So if we take a look at SPY, eventually ended up not too far off from where we started. So I guess it was up 50 pips on the day. So that's a pretty good move, but pretty choppy throughout the day. And you'll see that with some of the names we were trading today. BABA actually had a pretty good move. So, I don't typically trade in the first 30 minutes of the day. So I'm on the West Coast of the United States. So as you can see at the bottom here, this is the market's open at 6:30 here, but I'm normally staying away till about 7. There's just a lot of noise and the potential for a lot of fake outs early in the morning, especially like, first trading of the day of the year after an extended weekend. But just off the bat, huge flush here, red candle, falls below the put trigger. And then we're just looking for a chance to enter. So, maybe it could be a retest of this call trigger. It could be something like you see here at about 7:10. So it regains the call or the put trigger, right? It initially broke down and then it regained it, but then you see a retest here, and this could have potentially been a good time to buy this candle right here. So as you can see, I use Ripster's EMA clouds here as a somewhat of an indicator. And so this is the 513 cloud. So it fell hard off the bat, but then you can see it's increasing and starting to flip. So it flips officially a few minutes later. But right here would have been an interesting time to enter. You have a hammer candle here signifying that, sellers push it down here, but buyers regain control, and it closed above the EMA cloud and above the put trigger. The next candle definitely did flush. So for me, I like to set a stop loss of about 10%. So I probably would have gotten stopped out here had I bought this candle. But, as you can see, it did end up, this would have been a good buy. If you would have held through this candle, would have increased and eventually broke the call trigger. So just kind of like indicators you could have looked at to know to buy, because obviously this is all in hindsight. It's easy for me to say, hey, you should have bought this candle. But me personally, the things I would have been looking at, I'm not sure I would have bought this candle. It's pretty close to the trigger, which is always good. The EMA 513 EMA cloud, it's still red, but it's wanting to flip. You can see it's on an upslope, flattening out. I do like the hammer candle. It's not necessarily a must buy just because of the candle pattern, but like all these things kind of indicating to me it might be a good time to buy, and we might be flipping from down on the day and then trying to regain ground. So let's see, this is 7:10. Let's see what SPY was doing. at 710. Okay, so huge green candle. Yeah, so this kind of, would have been following SPY with a big flush off the start and then generally regaining ground throughout the next candle. So potential here, then we see it gets up to the call trigger. So let's see what opportunities there were to buy here. So for me, this candle is the first candle that breaks the call trigger, but it's by the time this candle closes, it's too far away from the trigger. You've kind of missed the move. You don't want to be chasing. So we're going to wait for a retest. And so here we get our retest, right? So it does close below, but look at this. It's riding in general. It's been riding this green, which is a green meaning bullish, EMA cloud up. The cloud holds, so it closes slightly below the trigger, but it still holds the EMA cloud. This is the 3450 EMA cloud. So this is a little longer term. So this is going to move more slowly. Whereas this green one, the 513, is going to flip. It's more influenced by the recent candles in the recent days. This one's over a longer period of time, so it moves more slowly. But this one flipping is definitely bullish as well. And so this would have been a great time to buy on this retest. I didn't trade BABA today, but again, this would have been a pretty good time. And then the second, backtracking here. I don't trade the first 30 minutes of the day, and then I typically trade for about an hour. So this would be 7 a.m. Pacific to 8 a.m. Pacific. The reason being, after this, you can see the volume just really drop off. You can see here in the morning, volume is high, and then it just gradually wears down. By the time you're in the afternoon Eastern time, volume is just, way lower than it was in the morning. And because of that, you see a lot of chop. You don't see a lot of fluid movements. Candles are kind of small with a lot of wicks. So I wasn't around to catch this move for BABA. I kind of had traded some other tickers and shut down for the day. But yeah, you can see this is a bullish green EMA cloud. This is closing close to the call trigger. It's going to hold. And you could have made some pretty good returns here. And then this obviously gives you another chance. Same exact setup. Bullish green EMA cloud, bullish blue EMA cloud, test the call trigger, closes very close. So this would have been a great entry point, and then rises back up for some good returns. So BABA definitely had some opportunities. You needed to be patient here. A lot of chop, a lot of movements at the beginning. No real great entry points. Again, we talked about this hammer candle testing the put trigger, and you could have played calls to the upside. But yeah, and then later in the day with some of the retest of the call trigger to the upside. So that was BABA. Let's move on to the next one, Pfizer. I'm pretty sure, so this one gapped down with a very hard flush just off the bat and didn't really touch the trigger ever again. So what you could have done, you could have played, off these EMA clouds, but these EMA clouds to me are a little more, I don't like trading off of them. I use them as confirmation. So if it's close to the trigger and, it has some bullish EMA clouds, that it's more confirmation. I wouldn't necessarily trade off of this. So we're so far from our key levels, at this point, it'd just be guessing. You could have looked here and said, hey, it rejected this EMA cloud. It's still red, so it's bearish, and use this as almost a key level and played this drop. Similarly, you could have looked here hey, it's flipping from red to green, so that's bullish, and then you could have rode this up. Same thing here, flips back to bearish. But again, I typically don't recommend that. But for more advanced people who are going to be better at this than me, maybe they saw opportunity here. I just stayed away from this one. So next was Facebook. This was pretty choppy. So Facebook here, let's see if we could just compare this to SPY here. So this typically mirrors SPY pretty well. So if we line up the opening candle right here, you'll see this is let's do this. It's going to be pretty close. It mirrors. So it rises up, falls, and then it's just kind of choppy. So yeah, again, I'm looking me personally for the 7 o'clock kind of, this is when I get my day started. Immediately, huge green candle breaks the call trigger. You have some retest here. So this would have been a decent entry point, green EMA cloud close to the trigger, retest on a couple candles prior. It holds the level. You would have had some quick profits. If you could have scaled out, you know, this profit, I don't know, maybe 5-10% here. This one could have been up to 15 maybe. And then in hindsight, this is easy to see, but there's just a lot of consolidation at Facebook today. So if we're looking, you know, it's in this box pretty much all day, again, in hindsight. But with the chop, you want to be quick to take profits. You know, huge green, down, green, down, green, down. This didn't run up the same way you can see some other stocks doing. So you have to be quick. You have to take the green when you have it, increase your stop loss, get it to break even when you're in the green. Don't let a green trade turn red. And so there were some opportunities here. Retest here, retest here. You could have played the downside. So this would have, you know, retested the call trigger on the downside. So you could have taken puts here if you were thinking it was going to reject. These I might have played. These are pretty close to the trigger. I like the green EMA cloud. This one on the downside, it closes a little far away from the trigger. I don't think I would have played this. And really, there just wasn't a lot of room to run. It kind of just consolidated and was choppy all day. But yeah, I think the main opportunity here on Facebook would have been the retest of the call trigger a couple of times. And if you could have quickly taken profits, you could have had some returns. Okay. Next, let's see. I think this one was the opposite of Pfizer. This one just gapped up, huge green candle, never came back down around the trigger. Again, maybe you could play the EMA clouds. You can see it ride it up. Here's the flip, a little bearish, but really not a ton of opportunities for what I'm looking to do here. DraftKings. This one was interesting. I almost entered this one a couple times. So I thought there were some opportunities, again, kind of like I think we just talked about Facebook, kind of choppy. You can see the consolidation here if we just take a look here, like, you know, this is riding in this all day. You know, this range here, it's not a lot. It didn't break out either way, but that doesn't mean there weren't some opportunities. So let's see, right off the bat. So I almost bought this candle. This would have broken my 7 a.m. rule, so I didn't, but a huge flush off the bat. And then this tested the trigger, the put trigger. So, and then this one even broke it, but it couldn't close below. So to me, what I'm seeing here is that this level, and again, this is from Adam Sliver on Twitter. If you guys follow him, he'll give you these tickers and levels. What I'm seeing here is it breaks, cannot close above. So this hammer candle, what this shows is that the bulls are somewhat in control of this candle. And so, yeah, it's a red candle, but it fell all the way here. Let's see, to 27 bucks almost. But it couldn't close. It didn't stay down here. The bulls took back over, took control, and it kept rising, and it closed above the put trigger, you know, almost 30 cents above the low of the candle. And so here you can see this broke it, closed above. This closed really close. This same thing, broke it, but closed above. So if I'm looking here, this would have been a good opportunity to buy calls off the assumption it's going to reject the put trigger. And that's exactly what it did. I didn't do this. One, again, my 7 a.m. rule, there's a lot of fake outs. It wouldn't surprise me if this kept dipping. And then two, this red EMA cloud, it was getting wider, which means a bigger divergence, and it's, you know, sloping down pretty hard. So to me, that's pretty bearish. One way you could look at this is you could almost look at this as like it's going to revert to the mean. So this fell pretty far from the EMA cloud. And so typically if you look, you know, the candles are always going to be pretty close to this because EMA is an exponential moving average. By definition, it's an average, and you're going to be trading relatively close to it. So here, what you could have done is looked and been, hey, it's tested this put trigger, it's rejected it. It hasn't closed below. It's gonna revert back up to this. It flushed really hard. It's gonna come back up. Let's see. This was at 655. Let's see what SPY's doing. Okay, SPY was getting kind of choppy. So, but this had a huge flush and then generally gained ground after that. So, you know, I really was close to taking this, but first day, Monday, before my first rule, I didn't want to break it. First day of the year, so I didn't. But that could have been a good opportunity. And then you can see it's same story all day. I think we had Baba and Facebook do this. It's flirting around the call trigger all day. It's just a lot of chop. You could have played it a couple ways. You would have had to exit quickly to get your profit. But if you look, so this initial break a little far from the trigger, wouldn't have loved this play, but you can see here, here's a retest, here's a retest. You know, here's a retest on the downside. You could have bought puts if you think it's going to reject this trigger. Here's a retest. So it's just choppy. And again, this is easy to say in hindsight because we have the whole graph here. So like, I mean, if I'm looking, let's focus on this candle here. Hammer pattern, which I like. Green EMA cloud, I like. Close to the trigger, I like. It's been up, so you know it's not crazy to think this could reach levels here 28.55, 28.56. This could have been a decent buy. This candle just flipped the long-term moving average. And you know, you could have made, if you bought it at the bottom of this red candle, I don't know, that's maybe 5 to 8%. You would have had to scale quickly though, because the next candle after that, flush, you're in the red. So just a choppy day. I said choppy probably 100 times in my first video, not, you know, running out of words here, but you would have had to just get out quickly. There were profits to be made, but you would have had to get out quickly. So let's move on to the last two. So Neo was a tricky one. So this, okay, all the other ones are choppy. This one ran. You see, this is up and to the right effectively all day. So for me personally, I'm going to try to put this in my lens. This is for people, you know, I'm a beginner learning. I'm assuming you guys are the same. If you're advanced, you're probably listening to this thinking, why is this guy making videos? He doesn't know what he's talking about, but I'm learning. So just stick with me throughout the journey. Hopefully you guys can too. But so if I'm looking at this chart, Neo, there's no candles that are closing close to my trigger. I'm on the 5-minute chart, by the way, but you know, this breaks down too far. I'm not going to buy. Also, you know, I don't think I would have enough conviction that it's going to reject the call trigger just based on one candle. We still have, you know, bullish EMA clouds here. It regains it here. I mean, first of all, it's before my 7 o'clock rule and it's a little far from the trigger. So I would have liked to wait for a retest and we just never really get it. This is the closest you get. So, you know, if you wanted, you know, have some FOMO, you think it's going to run again, you miss this one, you want to buy in here. This is the closest you're going to get. You could have bought on this green candle, you know, it did flirt on the wick. But after that, it just runs, man. So if you got in on Neo on some calls, that was a good trade because I think this was the only stock all day I saw that ran. And so the last stock is actually the only one I played today, and I got hit twice. So plug. So I basically made the same move 2 times in a row. And so let me actually bring up my account so I can see exactly what time I was getting in. But this one gapped up, it came down past the call trigger. So now you're back in range. Here, you know, it's flirting with the put trigger. Where's it want to go? Where's it want to go? EMA cloud flips red. I'm thinking maybe this will keep dipping. It does not, it reverses back green, flirting with the call trigger. Sorry guys, I'm pulling up my account so I can see exactly what time and which candles I was buying here. So bought plug at 7:40. Okay, so this candle here. Okay. So this flips. We have some hammer candles here. So it's flirting with the call trigger. You could have bought puts because thinking it's going to reject. And again, you would have profited. This candle definitely fell. If you would have scaled out here, you would have made some money. To me, looking at this, these hammer candles, again, it's not like you have to go by the shape of the candle, but this EMA cloud is green, it's rising. These are hammer candles. I know they're red, but I'm just not loving this setup to reject the call trigger. You could have done it, you would have made some money. Again, you would have had to scale out quickly. I personally didn't. So I see this EMA cloud up and to the right, right? And so I'm hoping that we can break this call trigger and then ride this up, similar to the move we just saw in Neo, right? See this green EMA cloud just up into the right, we just ride it all the way. So I'm looking for something like that. We don't get it, it breaks down, quickly reverses, it holds the 3450 EMA cloud here. Then we get the first break of the call trigger. I'm liking this. I'm liking the setup. I drew this intraday trend line. We're moving up. And then we retest, which I love. I love this retest right here. Because what I'm looking at is we broke the call trigger. Okay, here we're looking to buy calls. We have a bullish EMA cloud. This was a little far from the trigger. This one was definitely far from the trigger. And we're still far from the EMA cloud. So if you remember, I was talking about reversion to the mean. I'm liking this. This cloud is growing and we bought some time here. It didn't break out. This candle, I love. This is a retest, closes right at the trigger, just above. Bullish clouds. We have this uptrend going. So I bought somewhere in between these candles. I liked the setup. And then, naturally next candle, a fat red one, I get stopped out. So I just take a loss here, probably more than I should have. I wanted to see if it would hold this 513 EMA cloud. It did not. So then I got out, and then naturally the next candle, skyrockets back. So if I could have just held through this, would have seen some profits. This candle did hold the 3450. This cloud was flipping from bearish to bullish. This did hold, but I like to cut my losers. My thesis is gone. It's far away from the trigger. I wouldn't buy here. So that kind of signals that I don't want to own here. But this, boom, right back up. Next candle, back down, retest the trigger. I bought again here. And then I drew in this yellow line because as you can see here, it's almost like a profit taking line. So it's not a trigger, but we flirt with it here, flirt with it here, flirt with it here. And we just keep flirting with it, right? We can't seem to break out. So I buy here on this retest. This green candle breaks it. I'm thinking, great. I was going to scale out at 10% gains. We didn't quite get it. So I held all my shares. And then, boom, right back down. So this falls right back below our price target. This falls below this little intraday trend line, loses the 513 cloud. And then it's just chopped the rest of the day. So I lost out on 2 trades here. I still, not all the trades are going to go your way. I still like the setup. We were close to the trigger, had some bullish indicators. It just didn't work out this time. So I actually tried twice. And again, just kind of the story of the day. If I bought here, we could have scaled out here. We could have held and scaled out here and made profits. I bought here. We definitely could have sold here. That would have been, 8, 10%. Not bad, but just held too long. Went back into consolidation below the trigger with some chop. I mean, look at this. This is just mass consolidation for the entire afternoon. On again, see, once you get in the afternoon, relatively low volume. And so, first day of 2022, not the way I wanted to go, but I'm still learning. I hope you guys are too. First video here. So let me know what you liked, what you didn't like, if you're here along for the journey with me, but we'll get back after it tomorrow and, happy trading.